The FBI estimates in the United States alone at any given time there are 25 to 50 active serial killers. Now, imagine across the world. Tommy Lynn Sells, also known as the Coast-to-Coast Killer, the Cross-Country Killer, was an American pedophiliac, hebephiliac, and necrophiliac serial killer, serial rapist, family annihilator, abductor, and robber who claimed to have murdered over 70 people. In this episode of Serial Killer Special, we take a brief glimpse into this beast's life and see what made him into a monster. Sells was born on June 28, 1964 in Oakland, California. He had a twin sister named Tammy Jean. They were 2 of 5 children in his family, having been brought into the world by Nina, their unmarried mother. A few months later, Sells and his sister contracted meningitis. He survived. She did not. Shortly thereafter, he was sent to live with his aunt. 2 years later, Nina brought him back home when she learned that his aunt wanted to adopt him. When Sells was 7 years old, he began drinking. At 8, he was molested by a man with Nina's consent. At 10, he began abusing drugs. 3 years later, a naked Sells climbed into his grandmother's bed while she slept. This incident caused him to be banned from the house, and not long afterwards, his mother and siblings suddenly left town, abandoning him. A few days later, he assaulted a female by striking her with a pistol in a fit of rage. In 1978, 14-year-old Sells was on the road, living the life of a permanent drifter. In May 1981, Sells reunited with his family in Little Rock, Arkansas. But Nina threw him out after he stripped naked and attempted to join her in the shower. After failing to get help from a mental health clinic, Sells began drinking more, eventually leading to his first arrest in 1982 for public drunkenness. Sells claims to have committed his first murder when he was just 15 years old. He broke into a house and saw the homeowner sexually abusing a boy. Remembering his own sexual abuse as a child, he became enraged and shot the man. This murder has never been confirmed. Sells committed numerous unrelated crimes for the next few years, including theft, driving under the influence, and assault. However, murder was what he enjoyed the most. In 1983, he moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where he beat a woman and her daughter to death with a baseball bat. Multiple other killings would continue to occur. On October 15, 1987, Sells drugged Stephanie Stroh with LSD before he fatally strangled her. He then encased her feet in concrete and dumped her in a desert hot spring. Her body has never been found. On November 17th through the 18th, Sells was hitchhiking in Illinois. He was picked up by Keith Darding, who offered to bring him back home for dinner. When they got to his residence, Sells pulled out a gun and shot him in the head twice. He then cut off Keith's penis before killing him with one more shot to the head. Keith's son, Peter, who was bludgeoned to death. Sells then attacked Elaine, Keith's pregnant wife. The beating was so severe that she went into labor and gave birth to her daughter, whose parents had decided to give her the name Casey. He fatally bludgeoned Casey before raping her mother. Sells proceeded to mutilate Elaine's breasts before beating her to death and sexually assaulting her corpse with the baseball bat that he had used to murder her children. He left the weapon sticking out of her vagina. On May 13, 1992, Fabian Witherspoon found Sells begging on the streets. She took him to her home, where he proceeded to rape her. He then stabbed her 18 times and beat her with a piano stool. Witherspoon survived and alerted police. Sells was arrested and sentenced to a minimum of 2 years in prison. He was released in 1997. Sells' murders came to an end on December 31st, 1999 in Del Rio, Texas. Holding a 12-inch knife, he entered a house and sexually assaulted Kayleen Harris before stabbing her 16 times and slashing her throat. He then went to Crystal Searles, slashing her throat. He left unaware that she had just barely survived. Searles informed neighbors and helped the police identify Sells. He was arrested on January 2nd, 2000. Despite the fact he admitted to 22 murders and may have been responsible for 50 more, Tommy Lynn Sells was ultimately convicted of just one at his trial in Texas, Kayleen Harris, 13, the child whose throat he'd slit in 1999. Young Crystal was the star witness against him, giving testimony about watching her friend's murder that brought tears to the eyes of the jurors. Sells was sentenced to death. In prison, Tommy was diagnosed with multiple personality disorders, bipolar disorder, and psychosis. The state of Texas executed him all the same on January 3rd, 2014. When asked if he had any final words, he said no. His death brought peace of mind to those that he had hurt so badly.